We're bringing you boots on the ground insight from the ranchers, conservationists, and partners who are helping to preserve the best of the Golden State for generations to come. Join the California Rangeland Trust for inspiring stories of resilience, innovation, and hope as we get tuned into the land.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Tune Into the Land. I am your host and CEO of the California Rangeland Trust, Michael Delbar. One of the greatest challenges facing the ranching industry today is succession. Over the next 20 years, an estimated 70% of U.S. farms and ranches will change hands. And without careful planning, some of these operations, frankly, may not survive the transition. Effective succession requires more than passing the land from one generation to the next. It requires planning and honest conversations about succession, business structure, finances, and change long before a crisis forces those conversations. In this episode, we're joined by Rangeland Trust ranching partners Mark and Dina Moore of the Lone Star Ranch. Their family has been ranching this land since 1896, and together they share how they've kept the ranch intact across generations, why they've chose to divide their operation into separate family businesses, and how they've prepared the next generation to lead while preserving the legacy of the land. We also explore some of the broader pressures facing ranchers today, from rising costs and regulatory complexity to development pressure and the challenge of keeping young people engaged in agriculture. Mark and Dina make a compelling case that the future of ranching depends on families being willing to treat the ranch as both a way of life and a business, and to plan for that future accordingly. With that, I'm excited to bring you my conversation with Mark and Dina Moore. With that, it's my pleasure to welcome Mark and Dina Moore to the podcast. How are you two today?
We're very good.
We're great.
So thank you both for joining us today. So Mark, why don't you start off by telling us more about you and Dina and the history of the Lone Star Ranch?
Well, we got married in 1981, and we actually purchased the cows from my parents about 3 weeks before we got married. And I was 26, and Dina, you was 22 or 23?
Yeah, I don't remember. 23. It was a long time ago.
What I can tell you, Michael, is we had no idea what we were doing. I think
on the ranch or the marriage?
Well, probably both. But I was thinking more of the ranch and, trying to run a business. And anyway, that was, I'll tell you a little aside, that was when ATMs first came out. And so neither one of us could balance a checkbook. So we'd go to town and take out $20 to see how much money we had.
But I think the Lone Star itself has a really cool history.
Oh, it does. It does. If we go back, the ranch was originally purchased by my family in 1896. And the documentation at the county recorder's office said that the purchase price was 5 gold pieces. And it doesn't say the denomination. It doesn't say what they were. It just said 5 gold pieces.
Oh, wow.
And so anyway, that was, it moved from there to the original Thomas Hunter's son, Frank. And then from Frank to my grandmother. And her married name was Ora Emerson. And then it moved to my mother. And her married name was Edgar Moore. And so the ranch really moved through 2 generations through the female side of the family.
Wow. 5 gold coins. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
So what's the operation look like today?
What's the operation look like today? We have a cow-calf operation. One of the things that our daughter Lauren has started doing is keeping all of our replacement heifers, and we keep the top end, and we sell the rest of the heifers as bred heifers. And by doing that, we're also able to sell some of the older to mid-age cows as bred, and that's been pretty successful.
That's been painful.
Yeah,
it's been painful. But I think, as we're going to talk later, Michael, that's really letting the next generation make decisions. But, I had favorite cows that she got rid of and continues to get rid of. And we actually have a cow herd that's more fertile than when my favorite cows were here all the time.
Oh, it's hard. It's when you put everything in, especially if you raise them from a replacement heifer up and you get to know those cows. And then, around our place, if they still have a tooth,
Yes.
Exactly.
It's really hard to go, it's a broken mouth, got to let her go. And those are tough decisions to make.
Yeah. And Lauren's pretty cutthroat. She has a criteria, and you better make that criteria.
It's important to me to keep all my teeth. I don't want to be cold.
Yeah.
The other part of our business enterprise is we have a heavy equipment enterprise, and we log, and we also do road work for private landowners as well as industrial timber.
And firefighting.
Oh, and firefighting, yes.
Yeah, there's 3 children, and they all have a role in the ranch.
Yeah, they do. They do. So you've heard us refer to Lauren. Lauren is our middle child, our eldest daughter. She is our livestock manager. And so she manages the livestock operation and the day-to-day operations. We formed a business structure for that, and that is an LLC, and that is owned by our daughter, Lauren, our youngest child, our daughter, Teal, Mark, and myself. So we all have a 25% ownership in that business enterprise. And then we have another business enterprise called Ikeway Construction and Logging, and that's our heavy equipment enterprise. And that business is the one that does the timber harvest, the road building, and the firefighting. And our son, Jake, and his wife, Christy, are the majority shareholders in that business. And that's another family business. And Lauren has a small portion in that because her husband is one of our equipment operators. So those are the 2 sort of business structures that we have on the ranch. And then additionally, and we'll talk about it later, because we were able, through the conservation easement that we got with CRT, to do a 1031 exchange. And that allowed Jake and Christy to partner with us on purchasing the neighboring ranch they had leased for 4 or 5 years. And so they have their own separate cattle livestock enterprise that they run on that ranch, which adjoins our ranch. And so both of our businesses are family businesses with family members involved, both sides, both businesses.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you've incorporated technology into your operation quite successfully. Explain a little bit about, I know one of those incorporations is virtual fencing. And I know you've done a lot with that, maybe some different changes to that technology. Explain a little bit about how that's worked for you, how you came to that conclusion that was something you wanted to pursue, and how that's benefiting the operation on the livestock side.
So, Michael, I'd go back a little bit further than that. I think that every generation that has run this ranch has brought, new things to it. And Dina and I certainly did, and we found a way for us that worked well. And one of the reasons of turning our both businesses actually over to the next generation is because we got comfortable doing what we were doing. And what we hoped and what we have seen is they brought new energy, new ideas. And as you mentioned, the virtual fencing, that Lauren went out and doggedly chased that technology. And I can say that at my age, at that time I was in my late 60s, now in my 70s, I wouldn't have had the energy to do that. And so that was the kind of thing that I think we were hoping for as we bring the next generation in, as they bring that energy and enthusiasm that maybe as you get older kind of fades a little bit.
So the virtual fencing for us has been an absolute game changer.
Yeah.
We are currently working with the business we're working with is called Halter. We were their 5th customer in the United States, and we have been working with Halter. It will be 3 years this November. And it has fundamentally changed our livestock enterprise. And we are able now to, or Lauren is able now to manage our livestock in a way that Mark and I had tried to many, many years ago. We both attended early on Ranching for Profit with Stan Parsons many, many, many years ago. And that was sort of when we were all talking about intensive rotational grazing. And while I was pregnant, Mark put in miles and miles and miles of single wire hot fence. And, in a landscape such as ours, that's really rugged, that's really broken, that has a lot of timber, it just wasn't functional over the long term.
The maintenance was way too high. You'd have one limb go down over the fence and ground it out, and all of a sudden you had 5 miles of fence that wasn't working, and you had to go find it.
So I think when Lauren had the idea of virtual fencing, we were kind of all in, because it really embodies that philosophy that we've come to believe in, is the rest, graze, and the beneficial impacts that livestock can have if you can manage them. And so gave us the opportunity to do that, and we're doing that. What we've discovered, and sort of the common theme with anybody who uses this technology, is water development. And so we are now partnered with some of our very traditional partners, USDA, NRCS, and we're doing a lot of water development on the ranch. So, Mark, in his role for us and our businesses, has been doing water development. So, we still remain really active. But yeah, I think for us as an industry, that virtual fencing is probably the single largest change to our industries since barbed wire. How's that? And I'm really excited on so many levels to see where it can take our industry overall.
And now that they have in Halter's the leading in the GPS side of things, you don't put the towers, and so the infrastructure's a lot easier to deal with.
Well, and yes, as a matter of fact, our daughters Teal and Lauren have their own cow-calf operation on another neighboring ranch. And when we looked at that ranch and putting up towers, it's a small piece of property, but it was way, way, way too many towers. Those are satellite. And the same thing with Jake and Christy on the neighboring ranch that we acquired. Again, the number of towers they would need in, this sort of steep, rugged terrain was too much. And so, they're using satellite collars as well. So we have two different ranches that we're using satellite collars on. And then here on the Lone Star, because we did put the towers in, we're using the towers, and we'll continue to do so probably until Halter doesn't let us use them anymore.
You mentioned partnerships, and the Lone Star has partnered with a lot of different entities and organizations to help with the changing times and getting and improvements and responsible stewardship. Talk a little bit, if you can, about those partnerships. I know NRCS, Natural Resources Conservation Service, is one you've done a lot of work with. Point Blue Conservation Services, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, CAL FIRE. I know you've done a lot of work with these organizations and entities. Can you talk a bit more about how that has helped you with the stewardship of the ranch?
Yeah.
I think that it's allowed us, you look out there at your place and there's always something you would like to do. It's whether or not you can afford to do it or not. And so you look for, pots of money in different places where you can make an improvement. We've done a lot of, 5-strand barbed wire fencing and built miles of that. We've done, I think I have 8, right now I have 18 watering troughs that I've put in, and those were before we had the easement. Right now NRCS has a special pot of money for easements. And when I say that, it's NRCS is one of our funders for our easement. And so we have access to some money there that we didn't have before.
Plus, we have a carbon farm plan.
Oh, yeah, we have a farm and carbon plan, too.
So I think, Michael, the other part that I really thought about when I was thinking about this question is going back probably 30 years ago. I mean, I think that both USDA, NRCS, and University of California Cooperative Extension have been our partners since the beginning of our ranching together. Those are comfortable partners for many of us. But early on, our watershed was threatened by the Environmental Protection Agency as being listed as sediment impaired. And we had the opportunity to work with an individual who was employed by the EPA who really, really, really understood keenly, deeply, philosophically what collaboration meant. And so he worked with us. We formed a watershed group. And through that work with Chris, with the EPA, for us, I think it sort of helped us make a philosophical shift of that, maybe taking on some risk with partners that you wouldn't traditionally, and recognizing that if we have shared values, if we can create a relationship, about conservation of working landscapes, those sorts of things, I think it opens a lot of doors. And so I just sort of look back as to how hard that was at that time, but really ultimately what a gift it has been over the years, and sort of opening us up to a variety of relationships. And, most recently, within the last 2 or 3 years, we partnered with Point Blue Conservation, and they came out and have conducted over a 2-year period migratory bird count. And we ended up having 75 migratory birds on the Lone Star Ranch. We didn't know it, so those sorts of partners and partnerships can really bring us a lot of valuable information, and maybe sort of help shift our thinking a little bit when it's helpful. How's that?
Yeah, I think too, it gives you the opportunity to go out on your landscape with people that have a much narrower focus in a particular area. It might be an engineer or an archaeologist. And the point of Point Blue with birds, I went out with a fellow from Fish and Wildlife Service. We were looking at some oakland restoration work, and it was in the springtime, and we're walking along, and he said, "Oh, you hear that bird? It's such and such, such and such." And I go, "Okay." And then we go a little further, and oh, there's this one. It's a different bird. And to me, I heard those sounds my whole life, but they were just kind of background noise. And this guy knew what it was. And it's really cool to go out with people that have that, real depth of knowledge in a particular area, that something maybe you've seen your whole life, but never stopped to kind of smell the roses, as it were.
Those relationships that you've developed, have that allowed you to do any special projects that you may not have done otherwise?
How many do you want us to list? How long do you have? So just the ones that come to top of mind is we've done a lot of oak woodland restoration. And we partnered with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on that. We partnered with University of California Extension on that. We partnered with CAL FIRE. I think it's really interesting. Michael, you've experienced fire and what can happen with wildfires. We haven't, but Mark was Mark was ingrained with a healthy sense of fear from his mother about fires. And so for us to put fire as a tool on this landscape was a really big deal. And we partnered with CAL FIRE, and we've done prescribed burns. And we have, over the years, the past, 9 years, 8 or 9 years, conducted 3 or 4 different prescribed burns with them, and have burnt, I don't know how many
acres. Over somewhere around 1,000 acres plus or minus.
So that's been, again, that's one of those relationships that's built up over time. The challenge is, as we often experience, is that we've got the guys who we really liked and were great team members have moved on within the agency, and I'm really glad for them. And I think they're helping all of us at a bigger level. But we now need to build relationships with their, with new team members, and we'll do that. But that again is something that always is a part of all of this, is the really critical importance of relationships, right? And making friends. And then we've done, just the oak woodland restoration. There's a lot that I'm forgetting. How's that? We've done sediment work, and I think for us on this ranch, sediment delivery has been a really big deal. We're an impaired watershed. So we partnered with the Regional Water Quality Control Board of the North Coast region. We partnered with them early on, getting funding and reducing sediment delivery from our ranch roads. And again, those are partnerships that aren't always comfortable for landowners, because those folks have a regulatory duty and responsibility as well. And so again, there is that sort of taking the risk to partner with different bedfellows to have a shared outcome that we can all support.
I'll just add that to that. I think the road work probably was the biggest project we've taken on. That took years to do. And part of that also, the Humboldt County Resource Conservation District, those funds were grant funded. And so in order to get those funds, you either have to be a 501c3 or you have to go through a government agency. So the Resource Conservation District was a government agency that we went through and got a lot of our funding through them. And they were great to work with.
And I think Mark's making a really interesting point too, is that an RCD, as well as the Partners Program of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and as well as the Fisheries Restoration Group from the Department of Fish and Wildlife, who we worked with extensively too. Both those two state and federal agencies have programs within them that allow for and encourage partnerships. And I think that's really critical and valuable because they also have a different arm of the same agency that has a regulatory side of it. And so if we're looking at how can we bridge gaps, how can we do things on the land for the benefit of the land, we need to be able to have a comfortable space within which to do that and a comfortable ability to be able to build relationships. And so I really value the RCD sort of as being that third party for us, but I also really value the Fisheries Restoration Program of Department of Fish and Wildlife and the Partners Program of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Program, because that gave you the ability to work with those agencies outside of the regulatory arm. That was really helpful and can be really helpful to all of us.
With the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Partners Program, it's a little bit of a challenge for some landowners to realize that that's not the portion of the agency with the badges and the guns.
Yeah,
these
exactly.
are the folks that are here to help and work with you. There are those with the badges and guns that can be quite intimidating and challenging, but having that partner program and those folks with that is really critical for the reasons
it is. Yeah.
So your work on all of this got noticed through the 2016 recipients of the Leopold Conservation Award, and then in 2015, the National Award of Excellence by the Society of Range Management. Those are pretty impressive accolades. What does those awards mean to you two?
I'm humbled. Honestly. Honestly humbled, Michael. I just, those are, it's really meaningful, really humbled by it. It's given us the opportunity to build other relationships with folks across the United States. I feel like there are so many who are deserving. Why us? That's where I get to with it.
Yeah, I guess what I would say about that, Michael, they have the Sand County Foundation, who is responsible for the Leopold Award. Every other year has a gathering of Leopold Award winners. And we've gone to the last two, and I hope to go to the next one. It's just, you go there and you talk to people, and so they have a program, and award winners, past award winners talk to you about what they're doing. You're thinking, my goodness, I didn't do anything like that.
Yeah.
So, like Dina says, it's really humbling. And I'm not, when I see what other people have done, ours, I don't see sometimes how ours matches up.
Well, I've been out on the ranch, and I can tell you that they are in good company.
Thank you.
Things you two have done, the whole family has done on the Lone Star is extremely impressive, and those awards are extremely well deserved. So
thank you.
Don't think otherwise. So all the work that you've done on the ranch and the awards that you've received, where you started to pursue a conservation easement with the Rangeland Trust, and that's a big decision to make, to go down that road, to permanently protect the ranch. Talk a little bit about that decision. What went into making that decision? Why did you do it? And how has that been for you so far?
Yeah, so far it's been great. How's that? Anyway, what I was going to say, Michael, is there's two portions to why at least the decision was right for me. One is that my mother always had a dream or desire that this ranch stay in one piece. And when you move from generation to generation, ownership gets diluted, and it has a greater opportunity to get broken up. And I shared that dream with her, is that the Lone Star Ranch stay in one piece. I would hope it would stay in my family. But you can't see, into the future, but I do know that it will stay in one piece. That's important to me. The other thing, when you look at the value of these ranches, part of that value is their development value. And so what we were able to do was remove that development value, and then take that and make an opportunity for one of our older son and his wife to have a ranch and opportunity in agriculture. And that was my dream.
I think that from my perspective, California Rangeland Trust philosophically understands ranching. Philosophically, we have a shared value, shared legacies, that sort of thing. So CRT was really a easy decision for us in terms of who we wanted to work with when Mark decided that, we did want to pursue a conservation easement. And, so far it's been a great relationship. And actually, we've already had a couple things come up that we have thrown to CRT, like, oh gosh, this is going on and this is going on. And,
you're now our partners, buddy.
You're now our partners for right or wrong. And so help us navigate this. And so I think there's a value in that perhaps is not stated up front, but behind, just knowing that you have a partner organization who is, on your deed with you, but able to help you navigate some of the really difficult issues that we all navigate on landscape bases, I guess. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I know we'll have further discussions on some of those issues soon here. But Mark, you mentioned talking to your mom about this. How do you think she and those before her would think about what you've done here?
That's it. That's a really good question, Michael, because Dean and I went through the agenda this morning and talked about. We had quite a discussion about that, and I think that the first property that I knew of to get a conservation was a neighboring Iquay Ranch, and that would have been in the late '80s or early '90s, I believe, and I know that at that time, I don't think they would have embraced it. It would have been something new and different from where they had been. I think she would have liked the idea of the ranch being kept in one piece, but I don't know that she would have understood the concept of a conservation easement.
I think, Mark, too, it's really important to sort of add in here perhaps how the ranch transitioned to you and our goals of doing that differently.
Well, my parents' only real asset was the ranch, and they had a small investment account and some cash, but not a lot. And I had two other sisters. They left me the ranch, and my sisters got a very small pot, shall we say.
So, I think that in terms of that, Michael, we didn't want that for our family because it's divisive. So what we really have strove to do with our family is be transparent and be open and have conversations, hard conversations, because we've got these two businesses that are family businesses. But then through the conservation easement, that really opened the door for us to give another one of our children the opportunity to have their own ranching enterprise. So I think we really looked at succession. And I think that succession is really critical to us in agriculture. I'm not going to say just ranching, but agriculture, because, we have these significant land bases that are on paper quite valuable. But knowing how to move that forward and, knowing that the management or ownership of that is being handed over to the next generation when they're young, when they're able to, when they're young, giving them that knowledge. I think too often, because we are defined by these ranches, that's who we identify with. That's how we define ourselves. It's really, really hard to give that up. And it's hard to do that, in my case, gracefully. You heard about the cows, other parts of that. But I think that if we want our children or our families or the next generation to really be engaged and involved in these operations, then we really need to carefully look at how we're handing them over. And one of the things I got out of the interview you did with Stan Van Vleck that really struck me was, do you have a family business or do you have a livestock business, right? And what I really recognize is we have family businesses. And so transitioning those family businesses to the next generation thoughtfully, transparently, and in actual practice is really important. So that sort of is, I think, sort of our whole idea about what a conservation easement allowed us to do and how that helped with, our sort of family business structure and succession planning. What am I missing?
Well, I guess what I would add to that is that I think that, we work with our family. The family comes together for every birthday. So there's 8 adults and 8 grandchildren. We're always having a birthday party, and we vacation together. And so it can be very challenging. And one of the things that I think people should realize is that, counseling is not a dirty word. And we have done family counseling. And we have had mediators come in and help us through difficult problems. And one of the things I think everybody has gained is a respect for each other and realizing that everybody does not see the world in the same view and that people react to things differently. And that's okay. And, to have patience with differing opinions.
Well, you two took over the Lone Star very young.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
So now you have 3 children that are involved and relatively young too, and they were younger when the transition, I'm sure, started. The lessons that you two learned, how did that translate into how you're working that transition with the 3 children?
So I think that one of the most, I've had 2 important conversations in my life. One was asking her to marry me, and she said yes. And the second one is this one. We were working with Stan Parsons. We went to his Ranching for Profit school, and then we were part of one of his first EL groups in the United States, Executive Link groups. And he always brought new things to us. And one meeting was based on secession, and he said something that really resonated with me, and that is that the older generation has an obligation to tell the younger generation what their plans are for their estate. And if they haven't, the younger generation needs to ask. And if they won't tell you, you need to leave because you're going to end up being very disappointed in life. And so we came home from that, and I thought about it for about a month. And I took that to my parents, and I got to moving because they had no estate plan. And so I got them moving in the direction to do an estate plan, through Dina's dad, we found an accountant, a tax lawyer in Sacramento who specialized in agricultural properties, who did a really good job for us. And at that time, the estate tax exemption was $600,000, and he put together a structure of how the property was held, and we did some other things that meant that there would be no estate tax upon my parents' death. And anyway, that short conversation in Mom and Dad's kitchen was probably one of the most important conversations I ever had.
But I think that philosophy that you got from Stan has carried forward for us. So that's really, I think, the philosophy that we've used with our family is, informing them, engaging them, and letting them be actively involved in the management and ownership of, our business structures, and being really clear with everyone as we move forward, what our estate planning is in the future. And so again, those are not easy conversations, but I think they're critical conversations. And I think that one of the things that we learned early on is that, it is about making change. Mark's folks weren't keen on change. So we had Hereford cows, like many, many, many people in California. Hereford, like a lineage. We have a picture of your...
Well, there's a family legend that the first Hereford bull in Humboldt County came from San Francisco into Humboldt Bay on a boat.
So those legends are true, right? Always true.
There's a picture of the great-grandpa standing in front of this Hereford bull that I look at that and he's looking so proud, and I'm thinking, man, you're proud of that?
So move forward. And, Mark and I now have purchased the cattle from his parents at the time of our marriage. And, we're now selling calves, and our calves aren't doing well in the marketplace. You go to the auction, and you know what it's like in a small community when you're selling calves and you're going to the sale barn on sale day, and you better be the best, get the most money. That wasn't us. We did have, and have always had, a really great, robust health program. Mark's folks really believed in that. We believed in that. So that was not the issue, but it was really sort of the genetics of, the dumpy Herefords. And so we decided that we needed to make some changes to our genetics.
So Dina went off to Cal Poly San Luis to they have a bull sale. At least they did then. I don't know if they still do.
Yeah, they do.
Still do. And we needed 3 bulls. So she came home with a horned Hereford bull. She came home with a polled Hereford.
That was bad.
That was bad too. It wasn't horned. And she came home with a red Angus bull. That was sacrilege.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
She didn't come home with a black one. At least it was red. But
yeah. So, I think what we learned from that, Michael, is that it wasn't ever spoken that, oh, what are you doing? But it was conveyed, and anyway, fast forward to where we are now. We have great genetics. Our cattle are in demand at the marketplace. But I think, again, sort of what we've learned from there. And we also made mistakes along the way. I remember there was a time when we're improving these genetics, right? But again, I'm pregnant and having children. And so it was really important to me because I'm looking at EPDs and I'm studying all this stuff, and we've got to get this information. And so I tasked Mark and his mother to go out and weigh calves. I couldn't ride anymore because I was too pregnant. To weigh calves in this range situation. Mark's mom didn't rope or anything like that. And so that didn't last very long. that didn't last very long. Or the miles and miles and miles of single wire fencing that we put in that we have had to take out or that we have had to deal with now, all of this miles of fencing. And so, and there have been other mistakes that we have made. If we're going to learn and grow, we've got to be able to make mistakes. And so Mark is, again, so much more generous than I am with allowing our next generation to do their own thing and support them in it, no matter what his opinion is. And he's much better about not sharing his opinion than I'm sure that's going to be a shock to you. I might be a bit opined at times, I've been told. But, allowing that change to happen, even if you question it.
I'll go back to, I mentioned earlier about Lauren keeping all the heifers and then selling, bred females, whether they were cows or the heifers that she didn't want. And, I was opposed to that. I argued, and it's been financially in this situation with cow numbers being down, it's been very lucrative for us. Now she's got another one. She's been off, been to ranching and profit, and everybody's asking her, why aren't you breeding yearling heifers?
Oh, we could talk about that at length too.
And so I've told her, we've done that. And these are the things where you're going to have problems. If you're going to do it, you have to solve these problems because we couldn't. No, don't do it. We've done it. Not. These are the problems that I see that you need to solve.
Yeah.
So Michael, we may be in the near future breeding yearling heifers to calve too on this range.
You talked about generational transfer and how important that is, and how you've been able to really do a lot of planning and being intentional with the decisions you make for that generational transfer. But in the ag industry today, that's one of the biggest issues, is that generational transfer, and those that are prepared for it like you, or those many more that haven't taken those steps. But what other challenges do you two feel are facing the ranching industry in nationwide and in particular in California?
Financial pressures. I think that I look back to the early 80s, the cow market wasn't good. We didn't have much money. It was a big deal when we could buy a chicken or a 6-pack of beer. But I don't think that the financial pressures then, or the financial landscape then, was nearly as complex as the financial landscape is today. And so I think that, we are going to have to continue to diversify, continue to be creative. I think take that look at it that I got from Stan Van Vleck is like, look at this as a business and what do I need to do to make this business succeed? But I think for me, that's the biggest concern that or one of the largest concerns that I really have is, how is across the nation, how are we going to be entrepreneurs and have small businesses without significant off the ranch income? And in our case, we've been very fortunate in that was not anything that we ever did. We had some lean years, but we always figured out how to generate income on the ranch. But boy, I think that's a huge issue.
Yeah, I think that right now, we're sitting pretty good because the cow market is incredible. But we'll see. It'll go. Dean and I have lived through. This is our third cycle like this, and it always goes down. And that historically is what it does. Cow numbers have come back, and so the thing that really puts a pressure on is the cost of doing business.
Yeah,
and insurance, fuel,
taxes. We just with this purchase of this acquisition of this new ranch, we had a tax implication that was unbelievable. And fortunately, one of our consultants helped and, we worked on it. But I think in terms of that, it's sort of like, what are the regulatory costs? What are the costs over which we really have little to no control? In these businesses, you have your direct costs and you have your overhead costs, but then you also have these sort of other costs that you just have no control over. And so I think that is really difficult. And then I think that, we talk about development pressures, and we on the North Coast are not impacted by population density, but Mark and I and the Lone Star Ranch have lived through the cycle of cannabis, and we have seen what happened just within our neighborhood of pieces of property that were broken up and subdivided and sold to marijuana growers. And now you have these properties. An example, we have a neighboring property that sold 8 years ago for $1.2 million, and it just sold for $320,000. And you look at that property and you look at the infrastructure that is there that somebody should clean up.
Yeah.
And should clean up from a perspective of the things that we all value on the landscape, that you're not leaving garbage out there. You're not leaving abandoned cars out there. You're not leaving miles and miles and miles of plastic pipe out there. You're not leaving buildings out there that are not even habitable anymore. So, we've seen that. I kind of felt like, we get the conservation easement and we're great. We're off the hook. And we've got yet another new potential development pressure from, development that's beyond our control with regards to wind energy generation and potential transmission lines coming through the ranch that are going to be significant. So I see that as the development pressures continuing for all of us who are in this really unique position of managing these working landscapes in a way that, the broader public doesn't understand. And so I think it's really important for us to sort of share our values of stewardship and all of those sorts of things to try to leverage that into a part of the decision-making process so that folks can understand why we're here. So anyway, how's that? What else? Generation. Keeping the next generation on the landscape. I don't know why. I tell Mark sometimes we're really lucky. And I don't know why us, but we have 3 children, and all 3 of our children came back to the ranch. Our youngest daughter said when she left, I'm never coming back.
She's not coming back to the ranch. She's not coming back to Humboldt County.
Not coming back to Humboldt County. All 3 of our children have come back to Humboldt County, and all 3 of our children have imported spouses from outside of Humboldt County into Humboldt County. And again, that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And so I think that, again, being able to keep our younger generation interested and engaged in what this is a challenge as well.
One of the things I think that helped, it's just a little thing, is when our kids were growing up, they, from their grandparents, they got a little bit of money. And so they bought some heifers. And so they had their own brands on those cattle. And when we gathered, their calves got branded. And then when we sold them, they got a check. And so there was a reward for all that work that they did. And I don't know how big a part it played, but I've seen another operation where kids were asked to work, but there was never any reward for it. And it didn't turn out as well. How's that?
Well, the 2 of you have really built a ranch and a legacy that you're able to pass on. That's a success. That has to make you to feel pretty dang good about what you've done.
Michael, goes back to what we were talking about earlier with the incredible awards that we received. I'm humbled. I mean, honestly, yes. It's a gift. It's a gift. And I just am so appreciative that our children want to be here, that our children are engaged in our business, that our 8 grandchildren have an open door policy of hitting the house and going into their stash of candy in my storeroom. What a gift. What a gift. I had to turn down 2 babysitting opportunities this morning to do the podcast, Michael. So yeah, I'm again, I just feel like, wow, how lucky are we? And I'm very appreciative.
I'm doing this from my home, and I'm waiting for Hurricane Hattie, my granddaughter, to come rolling in any minute.
Exactly.
When I see her dogs running around outside, I know that they're up and moving. So I anticipate her come blowing in here any minute. So we're going.
Aren't we lucky? Aren't we lucky?
It is. Yes, we're in the same boat. 3 children. They're all here. One very close, one 100 yards away, and one half a mile away. So
yeah.
And they all show up at dinner. Hey, what's for dinner?
Wow. Oh, wow.
Kayla will call. So what's for dinner, Dad? I know. What are you baking? We'll be there at 7.
So Michael, the one I get is, Dad, what are you doing tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's.
It's like, okay, what do you want? What do you need?
Let's cut to the chase.
Yeah, I don't know about your family, Michael, but we share a Google Calendar. So we all know where anybody is at any given time. And some of us are better about checking the Google Calendar than others. But yeah, it makes you wide open for oh, wait, are you free here? Are you free there?
Yeah, we would have to actually fill it in. So we're actually going to be up in your area on September 24th. It's going to be a special night of reflecting on California's ranching heritage. We're going to show our film, You Just Can't See Them from the Road. And then immediately after that, Andy Westfall, and I know both know Andy, he is going to present his latest book, Humboldt Heartland, Life, Land, and Legacy. And he's going to do some readings from that and a book signing. So we're really excited. This is going to be at the Eureka Theater. I think it's 5:30 to 7:30. And then we're going to have a reception afterwards at the Morris Graves Museum from 7:30 to 8:30. We are extremely excited to get up there and connect with more local Humboldt County folks. And hopefully we'll see you there as well.
We're excited too, Michael. And I think that Buckeye Conservancy is going to be a part of that evening.
Yes.
And Andy served on that board and actually was one of the founding members of that board. So they've been helping us coordinate it, and Humboldt County Cattle Women are going to be involved with it. So yeah, we're excited about it. We think it's going to be a really special night. Having you guys visit and show the screening of the movie, and then having Andy do a book signing is going to be really special. So we're looking forward to it, and looking forward to, I think, a great shared evening with California Rangeland Trust in our backyard.
We are too. Mark and Dina, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and giving up some grandma time with the grandkids to share your stories with us today. And we really appreciate that. And good luck. I know you're leaving on vacation, so have a great, safe, and happy, fun vacation. And we look forward to seeing you in September.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you very much, Mike.
We hope you enjoyed our conversation with Mark and Dina. If you are interested in joining us in Humboldt County for our screening of our film, You Just Can't See Them from the Road, and an exclusive reading from Andy Westfall, you can grab your tickets at rangelandtrust.org/events. That closes the gate on another episode of Tune Into the Land. We want to remind you that your feedback matters. So please share your thoughts by leaving a comment or a review. Let us know what you enjoyed, what topics you'd like us to dig into, and your suggestions for future guests. Don't forget to hit that follow button to ensure you're notified when new episodes drop. And if you'd like to support our mission, visit our website at rangelandtrust.org. There you can make a donation or check out the Get Involved tab to learn more about upcoming events and conservation projects. Thank you for listening, and until next time.